Fireworks in the sky, but the truth's still buried underground. Royal Low, yeah. They told me, wave the flag while the chains still clank. Told me praise the names on the blood-soaked banks. Told me freedom was born in the room full of men who wrote liberty down while they own human skins. So fuck your founding fathers and the myths they made. I don't pledge to the lie, I don't kneel to the page. You can light up the sky, I remember the smoke from the fields, from the ships, from the necks in the row. You call it independence, I call it selective. You call it patriotic, I call it protective. Other stories so fragile it cracks when questioned. Truth knocks once and they call it aggression. Yeah. Red for the blood they spill, white for the lies they told, blue for the bruises left on the bodies they sold. Don't ask me to celebrate what never included mine. I came with the receipts, I came to redraw the line. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, yeah. No justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, I'm lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. They say, look how far we came. I say, look what it cost. Every courthouse got a shadow, every victory got lost. They gave statues to the takers, made heroes out of thieves. Put their faces on the money while the hungry couldn't breathe. Don't lecture me on freedom from a stolen land stage. Don't quote old documents with blood on the page. Don't tell me be grateful for a seat at the table when my people built the room and got treated unstable. You can't buy me through the truth, you can dress it in stars, but the anthem still echoes like chains behind bars. I don't hate the people, I hate the disguise. I hate when the guilty get praised as the wise. Red for the blood they spill, white for the lies they told, blue for the bruises left on the bodies they sold. Don't ask me to celebrate what never included mine. I came with the receipts, I came to redraw the line. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, no justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, I'm lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. Don't call it hate when the wound speaks back. Don't call it division when our name was fact. Don't call it progress while the system still bites. Don't call it freedom if we still gotta fight. I'm not here for comfort, I'm not here to pretend. I'm here for the children who deserve better than this. Better than myths, better than chains, better than flags used to cover up pain. So this one's for the ancestors who never got rest, for the names never written but who gave us their best, for the mothers who prayed, for the fathers who ran, for the babies born fighting in the stolen man's plan. This is not disrespect, this is correction. This is not rebellion, this is resurrection. You can keep your parade, I keep speaking the truth. I don't need permission to remember my roots. Royal oak in the soil, truth in the flame. If the crown came with silence, then I don't want the name. But if the crown means standing when the whole world falls, then I'm 10 toes down till the real story's told. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, no justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. Fireworks fade, but the truth don't die. Royal Low, 4th of July. Not your midnight, not your lie, not your version of my life.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamin. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right. So let's see who's in here. Mel, Pearly, KQB is here. Okay. Rain is here. All right. Let's get into it. Pearly, Keisha. Okay. Truth Brown. Hell is here. All right. Everybody hit the like button. I see you, Quiet Storm, beloved. Just Jean is here. Stephanie, Real Eyes, Recognize Real Eyes. 57, Beige Fox, Morris, Royalty. All right. Let's get into it. Safety first. Deronda, Deborah. All right. Tones Joe. All right. Barbara is here. Stephanie. So with that I've been said, shout out to all my loyal worlds and everyone tuned into the Queen. And a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. I see you, Bookhurst DC, Natural Empress is in the virtual building. Okay, let's get ready to get into it. All right, don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications. I see you, Hadassah, beloved. So before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. Don't need a man, stop telling me I do. Okay, how long have you been gone, beloved? I haven't seen you in a minute. Poetry Princess is here. T Sum. All right, so let's get it started. Here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find her products at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. All right, so let's get right into it. We have a lot to cover. Okay, so first off, let's talk about Gary, Indiana, because the power is back on for some people after approximately 2 weeks. Okay, they were in the dark. Sounded like it was a Cuba situation. Okay, why was the U.S. government so slow to respond? For approximately 2 weeks, thousands of people in Gary, Indiana, lived without something most Americans take for granted: electricity. Now, mind you, they do say that Gary, Indiana is like, I believe, 85% black. I'll have to fact check that, but I believe that is the case. It is predominantly black. Now, no air conditioning, refrigerators full of food that was spoiled. Businesses couldn't operate normally. Schools were disrupted. People searched for places to charge their phones, okay, to wash their clothes, and to even get a hot meal. Now the lights are finally back on for essentially everyone affected by this historic storm. But there are really two separate questions that need to be asked. What caused Gary's power to go out? And perhaps more importantly, why did it take so long to turn it back on? Now, the storm started it. On August the 11th of 2026, a powerful tore across northwest Indiana. Now, this isn't an ordinary thunderstorm, okay? Instead of concentrating its destructive winds in a relatively small area like a tornado, well, this type of storm can produce extremely strong straight-lined winds across a huge geographic area. Now, in Gary, a wind gust reached approximately 99 miles per hour, winds comparable in strength to those experienced in a Category 2 hurricane. And Gary was hit particularly hard. And so, with that being said, nearly 38,300 NIPSCO customers in Gary alone initially lost electricity, and across NIPSCO's northern Indiana territory, approximately 375,000 customers were affected. NIPSCO has described the destruction as the worst storm damage in the country's known history. But there was another factor working underneath the ground: You see, the ground was already saturated. Northwest Indiana had experienced significant rainfall. That meant that the soil surrounding thousands of trees was saturated with water. So think about what happens when you combine three things: wet, softened soil, large, mature trees, and winds approaching almost 100 miles per hour. The trees essentially became giant sails. So their canopies caught the wind while their roots were trying to hold on to saturated ground. Trees began coming down, and when those trees fell, many of them fell directly onto Gary's electrical infrastructure. Now, power lines came down, poles and electrical equipment were damaged, and because much of the distribution system consists of overhead electrical lines, trees and falling limbs could physically destroy portions of the network. So this wasn't simply a situation where somebody could flip a switch and turn Gary back on. Parts of the electrical distribution system had to be physically rebuilt. Just think about that. Now, this is where the controversy starts. Other communities affected by the same weather regained electricity sooner. Gary became one of the last communities in Northwest Indiana scheduled for restoration. Now, at one point, 10 days after the storm, approximately 20,000 NIPSCO customers were still without electricity, with Gary representing a huge portion of the remaining outages. Residents understandably began asking questions like, why us? Okay, NIPSCO has pointed to the extraordinary amount of physical damage in Gary. Gary has also has had substantial tree coverage. Okay, researchers estimate approximately 28% of the city is covered by tree canopy. But there's something important. They said researchers say 28% isn't unusually high for an American city. So simply saying Gary has a lot of trees doesn't completely settle the issue. The combination of trees, saturated soil, overhead electrical lines, and nearly 100-mile-per-hour winds produced enormous damage. But the length of the outage has also opened a much bigger conversation about the resilience of Gary's electrical infrastructure and NIPSCO's preparation for a catastrophic storm. Okay, so I'm glad they're out of that situation, because that was really awful. I can only imagine what people are doing for 2 weeks, not having power. Can you all imagine? I know some of you all would have a fit. Okay, if you couldn't get online or use your phone for a day, let alone 2 weeks. Not to mention not being able to cook food and everything spoiling. Okay, now with that all been said, let's talk about this nefarious police chief down there in Senatobia. You know, after that situation with the little child, Cohen Wiley, being killed, they've had a lot of eyes on them. And so now they're saying that their police chief has regularly used racial slurs. And in fact, even the N word. Now that's what they're saying. Okay, so please pay attention. Let's get into it. Text exchanges obtained by Mississippi Today and the New York Times show troubling messages sent by the chief of a Mississippi police department facing an uproar over the fatal shooting of a 1-year-old baby boy in June. I mean, how many bad stories do we need to hear from Mississippi before some of the people who don't look like me that live in Mississippi stop trying to convince us that there's nothing wrong with Mississippi? Stop trying to convince us that there's no hate and racism going on in Mississippi. Okay, do they think we're crazy, or are they just delusional? Because that's what it's starting to sound like. Okay, that's what it's starting to sound like. And also the fact that some of these people are trying to still act as though we shouldn't be upset or concerned or having any questions about this whole Nolan Wells situation, well, they know darn well it isn't just Nolan Wells. It's a myriad of instances that have happened in the past few months. Okay? At least 10 people lynched or found hanging from trees, and they want to tell us it's self-deletions. Not to mention the other people that they say accidentally drowned, and we just know better than that. Okay? Or at least we think we do. So anyway, here's what they say. Now, for many residents of this tiny city, about 40 miles south of Memphis, the fatal police shooting of a 1-year-old black toddler in June became a flashpoint after years of complaints about discriminatory and overzealous policing. The toddler, Cohen Wiley, was killed when police officers shot at a vehicle he was in after they responded to a shoplifting call at a local Walmart. And let me just tell you all something. Now, I know you all that look like me, you already know this. Okay, I know you all already know this, but the thing of it is this: whenever you see police using overly excessive force, well, almost every time you see them doing it to a person who looks like me, you already know they usually don't have a reason. They usually don't have, or a valid reason, shall I say. I mean, most of the time, they're absolutely not in imminent danger, and neither is anyone else, because most of the time, these people are absolutely unarmed. And so it just seems to me that, yes, they're definitely discriminatory, racist, overzealous, and all of the above, and that they look to find, many of them seem to look to find any old excuse to do something wicked to a person of my skin tone. Because, for one, here's the thing. Um, why would you shoot at a car that is leaving and people are only accused of shoplifting? Shoplifting, okay, a misdemeanor offense. And let's not forget the time that black woman was also accused of shoplifting. I can't remember if she really was shoplifting or not, and I don't even think she was. But they had their dog, the canine dog, literally scalped her. Okay, like it bit her, grabbed her by the hair, and like pulled, and like there was blood on her scalp. It was all so tragic. Do you all remember that? Now, who would let a dog do that to a person, especially over something so minuscule? These people literally hate us, some of them. Okay, they really do. Now, with that all being said, and people who carry out these types of acts, in my opinion, they're nothing but demons. I don't even think they're human in human form. That's just my opinion. Now, goes on to say, last year the city's selected alderman had forced out its previous police chief after a string of controversies, including an incident in which one of his officers had arrested a 10-year-old black boy, okay, who had urinated in public. Now, remember that story? Because I reported on that. Okay. But the new police chief brought in last fall for his firm, fair, and focused leadership style, routinely used racist slurs in private text conversations with a colleague even after he was appointed. Okay. And this is reported by Mississippi Today, as well as Variety News and the New York Times. So, in one text message, the chief, Harold Vanderford is his name, described having a racist moment. In another, he wrote that he almost beat a jigger with an N and a white woman's ASS a few minutes ago. Okay, so not only is he racist, he beats on women. Okay, that's good to know. Now, Vanderford used the racist slurs spelled various ways, more than a dozen times in a series of 10 text conversations dating back to last summer and continuing after he became chief. Now, the texts were provided to reporters by the person who had received them, who said they came forward and they came from Chief Vanderford. Three other acquaintances confirmed that the phone number associated with the messages absolutely belonged to the chief. 3 months before the Walmart shooting, Vanderford texted a colleague to lament Mississippi State University's performance in a college sporting event, referring to a player using a racist slur. In at least 2 instances in April, Chief Vanderford used the slur to refer to himself or his white friend text messages. Now, to refer to himself or, yeah, his white friend, according to text messages. Now, on another occasion, he texted that he was drunk and using the word loudly. Another time, he said he had screamed the slur at least 15 times. He texted that he hoped he was loud enough so that the neighbors had heard him. And on Thanksgiving Day, the chief texted that he had just had a racist moment on Goodman Road, a street in South Haven. Vanderford did not respond to phone and email messages left by reporters. I bet he didn't. Had nothing to say suddenly, but he was so loud and bold and proud, right? So he didn't reply to the reporters or notes left at his home and the police station. Now, the mayor of Senatobia, Greg Graves, did not respond to requests for comment. They say it is completely unacceptable for any law enforcement in Mississippi to use racial slurs, whether in private or in public, because no official can protect and serve a community while harboring hatred towards its people. Well, I'm sorry, but this is what they've been doing for decades. What are they talking about? Okay, and this is what Charles Taylor, the executive director of the Mississippi chapter of the NAACP, said. Now, when he took over the department, Chief Vanderford, a 60-year-old native of Greenfield, and 29-year veteran of law enforcement, vowed his tenure would focus on reestablishing and solidifying trust within the community. Well, so much for that pipe dream, okay? Because I'm sure no one should trust him of my skin tone after this. So then in June, his officers confronted Valencia Wiley and Latoya Farrell after they were accused by people in a Walmart of stealing baby clothes and a pack of diapers. The pair got into a vehicle and officers surrounded them with raised guns. Wiley, who was in the passenger seat holding her son, said that as they drove away, she lifted up the baby in an effort to make sure officers saw him. Then she heard 3 or 4 shots. According to a statement released the day of the incident by the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, which is investigating the shooting, mind you, officers had attempted to stop the car, but the driver drove in the direction of the officers, almost striking one. See, this is their go-to thing. I want you all to pay attention because we used to hear about this every now and then, but now just notice how often we hear this. Okay, notice how often they try to say that someone tried to hit them with the car. That's the same thing they said when they shot Renee Good in the face 3 times, when ICE did that. Okay, so this is just a common thing they say, and I don't believe it ever when they say it unless they can show video proof. And most of the times when we see the footage, it's not the person driving towards them. It's simply the person trying to drive away, but never in their direction. Okay, specifically. And let's not forget the truck that the black teenagers were in days ago that I reported to you, where the police officer burst out their window and then told them, get out of here, drive off, drive fast, leave now, and said all this crazy stuff. And then the other officer starts firing into the car, shot into the vehicle 11 times, striking 2 of them. Okay, fortunately for them, they lived. But why are you telling them to drive so fast? Leave, go now, drive. It seems like he was literally setting them up so that the other officer could shoot them. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all been said, the Wiley family hired Ben Crump, the civil rights lawyer, who presented forensic evidence suggesting that the police had fired from the side of the vehicle, which he said indicated that the officer had not, in fact, been in harm's way. Now, in documents released in error, state law enforcement officials identified Sergeant Hunter Foster as the subject of their investigation. Now, in the months leading up to the shooting, Foster had directed racist remarks at 2 of his co-workers, according to internal complaints obtained by Mississippi Today. In July, Mississippi Today reported that 2 days before the Walmart shooting, Foster had directed a racially offensive remark toward a black co-worker. So yeah, he's racist, doesn't like black folks. According to an internal complaint, 6 months before the shooting, Foster was also accused of making derogatory remarks toward a fellow officer who is white and has a daughter with his black partner, according to an internal complaint. Now, the officer, Joshua Griffin, now a deputy with the Tate County Sheriff's Department, declined a request for comments. According to the written complaint, Foster told Griffin, you need to get your people. He said this in relation to a foot chase involving black people. A week later, Foster made a second remark using a crude sexist epithet, saying that the owner of a suspicious vehicle was Griffin's type, which Griffin took to mean a black woman. Isn't that something? So Foster remained on patrol, and in June, 2 days before the Walmart shooting, he referred to a black officer in the department using a racist expletive, according to the internal complaint. That officer, Dexter Smith, filed the complaint the day after the shooting. A lawyer representing Foster, Martin Zumak, hasn't addressed Foster's comments, but wrote in an email statement that he was very convinced that his client would be cleared of allegations of wrongdoing. Vanderford hasn't publicly addressed the shooting, and the Wiley family said he had not offered condolences. Oh, yeah, they're not going to apologize because he meant to do it. There was no accidents. I mean, because who does that when you know that there is an infant, a toddler in the car? Okay, make that make sense. Ooh, honey, they're out here hanging the white folk now. They're out here hanging the white folk, y'all. Let's talk about it. Now, here's what I'm wondering. Did someone hang this man? Now, of course, they're likely going to say he did it to himself, but this man that was found hanging, did someone do this to make it look as though it's not just black people being found in trees? Or did someone do this because he was someone who hung around the black people or dated black people? I just have questions because back in the day, they would not only kill the black folk, but they would kill the white folk who aided and abetted them as far as they were concerned. So if you were a white ally, yeah, they would string you up too. They absolutely would. Let's not forget what Mississippi Burning was about. They not only killed the black guy, James Chaney, but they killed the two white Jewish men as well for even daring to be down there trying to help black folk in the first place. And so they still do those things till this day. Okay. And also if you are, for those of you who have seen my former professor on Nancy Grace and different shows, well, I told you that was her, Cheryl McCollum. We call her Captain Mac. Well, one thing about it is she used to always tell us that Klansmen, these people in these wanton supremacist hate groups and all of that, she asked us one day, she said, who do you think they kill first? And she used me for example. She said, if me and her were going to one of their houses or, going somewhere where they were, or we ran into them, who do you think they would take out first? She said her. Because yes, they hate black folk, but they hate the people who like black folk even more so. They call them race traitors, okay? And jigger lovers. I'm sure you all have heard that term before. Okay, J Love the Queen says, what? Okay, they hate in lovers more than us. Absolutely, they really do. Absolutely. And see, this is why people like Secret Service Sam and Jay Macon, this is why they get threats and stuff like that. Because yes, it ticks them off. And they tell them things like, oh, you're on the wrong side of history and all of that. But thank you for your insight, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And you all know that when these things happen, they usually don't have a whole lot of information. Hold on. In fact, let me see if I can find a news report because the information I got was on Facebook and hold on, and TikTok. Caleb Lawson. That was his name. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, they don't even have any news reports about it. Isn't that something? Not a one. Anywho, let's talk about it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And this is him right here on the thumbnail. The guy in the front. That's him right there. May he rest in peace. Condolences to his family. Nobody deserves to be hung from a tree. Except for the people in the Epstein files, if you ask me. Okay, the ones credibly accused. Okay, so a man was found hanging in Aberdeen Woods. He's been identified. Okay, so a man found hanging in a wooded area behind Central Park Shopping Center in Aberdeen, North Carolina, has reportedly been identified as 29-year-old Caleb Cage Lawson. I want you all to pay attention because this is like the third hanging in North Carolina. Didn't make a month. This is like the third one. I've already reported on two. So yeah, this is absolutely the third one that I've reported on. So according to a report from the North Carolina Beat, the discovery was reported at approximately 2:45 p.m. on Sunday, August 23rd of 2026. Aberdeen police reportedly located Lawson about 75 yards from the shopping center's parking lot. Now, the identification comes after claims began circulating online that another black man had been found hanging in North Carolina. Publication contacted Aberdeen police, who clarified that Lawson was, in fact, a white man. Police reportedly said the death is being investigated as a suspected self-deletion. However, that is not yet the official determination, and the case remains open and active. Now, until the investigation and any necessary medical examinations are complete, the cause and manner of Lawson's death should not be presented as final. The Aberdeen Police Department extended its condolences to Lawson's family and loved ones. I want y'all to pay attention. Did y'all notice that? Did y'all notice that what they did right there? It says that the Aberdeen Police Department extended its condolences to the Lawson family and loved ones. Now, I don't remember them saying that for the other two men that were found dead, found in trees of strange fruit. That's never been said. Anywho, the department also explained that it does not typically publicize suspected self-deletions. Regardless of his race or the circumstances being investigated, Caleb was a human being whose life mattered. Yeah, his life did matter, but so did the black people's. Y'all notice, listen to the different things they're saying. I find this all very interesting. His family deserves compassion, privacy, and accurate information as authorities work toward an official determination. Rest peacefully, Caleb Cage Lawson. Please keep his loved ones in your prayers. Well, that's certainly a lot more than they've ever said for a black person. Okay. I find this all interesting. Anyway, with that all being said, moving right along. Y'all hear this? Hold on. Since your prophetic bastard said, Queen, come to the Netherlands one time, please. Out here, black folks, white folks, brown folks, Asians, Muslims all live next to each other in peace. I wish you could experience it, beloved. You know what, beloved? That sounds really nice. I was thinking, I never thought about going to the Netherlands, but I did think about going to New Zealand, okay, once, because it looks really nice there. I don't know how the racial dynamic is, so that's why I never went. But the Netherlands, I just might pay you all a visit, beloved. Thanks for the info. I want to go anywhere racism isn't rampant like it is here in the United States. Okay, which is why I think sometimes that I might move to Costa Rica. All right, and so anywho, with that all being said, because in Costa Rica, they don't love the people who don't look like me. Now, I'm not saying they don't like them, but the darn sure don't love them. I'm not going to tell you what they call them. But they don't love those people. They don't treat them so much better over there from what I hear. So with that all being said, let's continue. Like stuff, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Moving right along. So let's talk about Nolan. Now, here's the thing. I'll go back to this clip of what Warren said. Let's get into it. Because, it's just so many clips that we can just keep going to where they just really telling themselves or just say stuff that sounds real crazy. In hindsight, when you really think about it. Let me share my screen. Krima Sherry said, I was wondering how long is this BS going to continue? They're trying to start a race war, but if we don't give them what they want, then what? Okay, exactly. Okay, so hold on. Let me read this other comment. Central Prophetic Bastard says, New Zealand, I heard, is a lot of racism going on, especially with the native Indians out there. But it's a beautiful country, Queen. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, beloved. Guess I won't be going there. Mel said Warren is disappeared and melting away because of the guilt. Let's get into it. Like stuff, everyone, please like and share. And then we caught the lawyer, okay, Edward Palchik, caught him in a whole nother lie this morning. Y'all remember? For those of you who missed it, go back and watch the morning broadcast. Okay, just lying for no good reason.
This.
What exactly do you see in the photos?
I see a body that matches the description of Nolan Wells, laying face down at the shoreline, right at the water's edge. And he was wearing swim trunks and, was, not moving, obviously. It just looked like he was sleeping on the beach.
The guy that discovered Nolan's body said he was found laying face down in a sleeping position. Now watch this.
I assumed, Nolan's just, we had been drinking all day and that he's just sleeping somewhere and, that he's okay.
You said you assumed that Nolan was just sleeping somewhere because y'all had been drinking. He slept over your buddy's house or whoever house it was. All of y'all slept over together. Y'all got back there without him. Where else would he be sleeping? Obviously, he didn't go home. He didn't have his phone. You know he wasn't sleeping with Katie, right? So where else would he be sleeping? All right, now watch this.
The next day, it got to be about 1 o'clock on July 5th. And I was like, my mind started to turn. I was like, man, if he's not awake yet, where is he? I got very, very.
You said your mind started to turn because if he's not awake yet. Y'all, I'm going off of his words now. I'm going off of what he's saying in the interview. If he's not awake yet, I'm no professional, bro, but I can read between the goddamn lines. Come on, man. Come on, y'all. Another thing, right? Y'all said y'all last seen him with Katie because he wanted to stay there, so y'all left and he stayed behind with her. She's saying she last seen him when he was talking to y'all and y'all was telling him to get on the boat. So between y'all and Katie, who is lying? So say if it's true, y'all left and he stayed behind with Katie. Katie, where the fuck did he go? If he was with you, where did he go? Or say she's telling the truth and she's saying, well, last I seen, he was talking to them about getting on the boat. What happened on that boat? He was found on the shore in a sleeping position. I don't know, bro. This shit is all weird, bro.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to Cito? Some people have gone out and done enhancements to the audio And in doing that, created a transcript manually. It doesn't appear that the transcript was derived from an automated system or have any, in my opinion, real integrity with it. So what do you guys think about that audio?
Well, I can go ahead and say that as you posted that clip of all of us on the boat, you know, as it's rolling, not rolling, but right there sitting in the water, Wyatt's on the phone with Cito in that clip. I mean, he's on the phone. Wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom of on the floor or something, or scrambling around, or everybody in a pot, like in a small space on the boat?
Watch this.
Now, I'm sorry, but I am never going to understand why he would say that unless he saw it. Why would you say that? That was a very vivid description. That was very descriptive and intentional. Well, I'm not going to say it was intentional that he said that, because surely he didn't know what he was saying or wasn't paying attention to how it sounded. But I just find that very interesting, because who would say that? You don't think somebody would have seen Nolan scrambling around on the floor? What? Crazy, right? Let's go to part 2.
Coast Guard. Does that sound like a guilty man to you? All right. Now, these are all American young men, incredible young men. And they did a lot more than just that. I won't go through all of it now, but they did a lot of heroic things after the fact. And they did the best they could. And they tried for their dear friend. All of
Let me tell you how you know he's full of crap. First of all, he said they did a lot of heroic things after. I won't go through all of it now, but they did a lot of things. Here's the thing, though. If they did anything that was heroic, you don't have to go through the whole list. Just tell us 1 or 2 things that they did. Yeah, he didn't tell us any, and because they didn't do anything heroic, please, okay? I mean, unless taking down their social media and lowering up is considered heroic in his opinion, you know? But other than that, what did they do?
their actions are the actions of innocent men, not guilty men. And again, they are categorically, completely, and totally innocent.
The disappearance of Nolan Xavier Wells has absolutely captivated the U.S., and it's because there are some absolutely unexplainable things in this case.
What?
So Nolan was an 18-year-old college football player who went out with some of his friends on the 4th of July to this thing called Horn Island, right? It's off the coast of Mississippi. So it was 4 of them, and they had taken a boat out to this place, right? So he was last seen at about 3 p.m. talking to a girl, but the thing that's making everyone scratch their heads is that his friends returned from Horn Island, but he didn't.
What happened to him?
They absolutely just didn't return with him, and his mom called his phone a bunch of times. He didn't answer. It was just, things were just getting very odd, to say the very least.
Yeah.
And so another thing that's really strange is that they found his phone on the boat, which is weird. Why would he leave his phone on the boat if he didn't plan on returning with his friends, right?
Yeah, and just leave your phone too.
So their excuse was that they thought that he got a ride with someone else, so they felt like they didn't have to take him, which is odd because I don't feel like most people go somewhere with their friend and then leave without them. That's not a normal thing that people do, right?
Yeah.
So that night at about midnight, his mom would report him missing. A huge search was initiated for Nolan. The Coast Guard was involved. There were multiple dive teams that were on the case looking for him. So on July 6th at about 8:45 a.m., a park ranger actually found a body. They were almost certain that it's Nolan.
No.
So another thing that I think needs to be highlighted in this case, Nolan was the only black guy on the boat with his 3 white friends. And I know that typically that doesn't matter, but we're at a point in our country right now where racial tension is maybe at the highest it's been since like the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
So it's also been reported that his friends have lawyered up too and refused to speak to the cops or the media. And that has a lot of people on the internet saying like, what are they hiding? And if my friend had gone missing, I would tell them everything that I knew. But then this video footage would surface, which kind of maybe explains why they're doing what they're doing. So this video shows a group of about 4 guys arguing, and you can hear like curse words, like they're seriously arguing. People are saying that this looks like them, like Nolan and his friends.
Oh my God, yeah, they're fighting.
Maybe this is why they've lawyered up. A lot of people believe that this video footage is proof that maybe something went on that they're not telling everybody. This story is absolutely crazy, and I'm glad it's getting the media attention that it deserves, for sure.
And he called the Coast Guard.
Okay, so you all remember that clip. That's the clip from where Nolan, that's the clip from where Nolan was breaking up a fight, or they were starting a fight and Nolan was breaking it up. So listen, here's the thing. We know that we have been hearing since the beginning of the case, okay, since the whole thing happened, we've been hearing people make all of these excuses. And I mean people like the maggots, okay? They've been making so many excuses. Now, what are the chances? Really, let's think about this real quick. What are the chances of there being fights on the island that people said that they saw Nolan? Someone did say that they saw Nolan involved in an altercation. Now, I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but we heard someone asking for their phone, and then Nolan didn't have his phone. Okay. So that's very interesting. I mean, what type of coincidence is that? That there's arguing and fighting, and then Nolan doesn't come back, and his friends, some of the very people that he was there with, were involved in the altercations, because you have Carter and you have Trayston that we know for facts because that's what Trayston said. So friends that he came there with, or that he was there with, or whatever, he may not have been on the same boat as Trayston, but nonetheless, they were all friends and all there. And so these people get into altercations, and then he turns up dead. I find that very interesting. Also, the fact that they spoke to him in past tense, the fact that they went on and partied at Ava's like they didn't have a care in the world, and then later they all of a sudden want to talk about Nolan, and then want to call the Coast Guard and his mom, but yet still say after that that in fact he's probably asleep somewhere. If you thought he was asleep, you wouldn't have been so alarmed that you would call people. Okay, clearly. And then, like I said, also the main thing for me is that when you noticed that he was missing, or you hadn't heard from him or whatever, you called his mom to see if she heard from him, but you had his phone. That doesn't even make sense, because it would be common sense that whoever had his phone, wherever he left it with, whomever the people were that he thought would have it, then he would absolutely call them first. That's to secure his phone so he could come and get it, or they could bring it to him. Okay, so that was real stupid as far as I'm concerned. And it was just a whole bunch of other things. So I'm sorry, but they made people look at them crazy. Okay, it's not us, it's them, period. Now, that all being said, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, so let's talk about Lindsay Clancy, because this story is all so crazy. Now, they had a psychologist who dropped a bombshell during testimony today, and they're going to be doing closing arguments tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, hold on. Before I go to Lindsay Clancy, let's talk about Karmelo first. First off, they have said that there were some text messages that were released that Karmelo supposedly texted, and that he was talking real greasy about black women and talking about their weave, and weave glue must have gone to their head and all this stuff or whatever. And then there's been some black women saying they're no longer going to support Carmelo Anthony. Well, here's what I want to say to that. First of all, do we know for a fact that Carmelo said those things? Because I have told you all before years ago that every time a black man is killed by the police, and then they say, oh, he was dating a white woman, they always come out and say, well, he was on his social media saying that he didn't like black women. He was disparaging and dragging black women. They always say that. And I told you all that I had started to notice, because I used to believe it at first. Like so many years ago, I used to believe it. But then they got to saying this all the time. And I was thinking, all black men who date outside of their race, and even black women who date outside of their race, they don't necessarily have problems with black people. Some of them, that's just who they fall in love with. And it's not even like they were looking for that type of person specifically. Okay. So then I told you all that I believe a lot of the time they're lying, because they never show the proof and receipts. They never show us the screenshots of their social media where they actually said these things. They just tell us they did. The last person I remember them saying this about was Jonathan Price. Okay. Killed down there in Wolf, Texas. Now, that all been said, how do we know that Karmelo said these things? If Karmelo actually said these things, I would have thought they'd have told us that back in 2025. Right after the incident happened, April the 2nd. I would have felt like they would have told us that then, and especially if they didn't tell us right away, well, they darn sure would have told us when we started donating money to him, because we know they didn't like the fact that we started doing what they do and started donating money, okay? And so we know they didn't like it, most of all, because they lied. They said that his family took the $600,000 and bought a new house and an expensive car. They said those things to try to stop us, to discourage us from giving them money. They said, oh, they didn't pay for a lawyer. They got him a public defender. That's why he lost the case. They told so many lies that if they had something that was truth that they could use to hinder us, to discourage us from wanting to support him, they absolutely would have done and said that a long time ago. Y'all need to stop listening to what the oppressor tells you about your own people. And that is what makes me so mad at some of us. Because some of you all, you will believe something that sounds so obtuse, something that doesn't even make sense, something that you can't even verify simply because someone who doesn't look like you said it was so. Okay? And we also know that you can absolutely make fake text messages. That's what you can do. Y'all do know that, right? So I just find it interesting that some of these black women are saying, "Oh, I'm not going to support him any longer. Oh, I'm so sick of these black men dating white women. Karmelo was never going to date a black girl." He said all of these things. Who knows what he was ever going to do? He was only 17 at the time of the incident. Okay, 17. And here's another thing. Even if he had said those things, which I don't think he did, but even if he did, he is a kid or not. Well, he's 19 now. He's an adult legally, but at the time he was like 17. And that was before the incident. So how old was he exactly when he said it? 14, 15, 16, who knows? But either way, I'm not going to stop supporting him. Anything the wanton supremacists want me to do, I'm going to do the opposite. Because here's what I want you all to pay attention to. If you start doing what wanton supremacists want you to do, you know what you become? Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. A raccoon. You become a raccoon. And I was just telling a friend of mine that, and they haven't called me since, and I really don't care, but I was just telling a friend of mine that about a month ago because they were talking greasy about Ben Crump and said, "Oh, Ben Crump never gets justice. All he does is go for the civil suits and the money." Well, he's a civil rights attorney. What else is he supposed to go for? He's not a criminal defense attorney. He's not a prosecutor. He can't decide who gets punished and who gets charged or indicted. Doesn't have anything to do with that. The best that he can hope for is to get monetary compensation and to highlight the case so that it gets more attention. There's more coverage on it. That's what he does. And that's what he's supposed to be doing. I don't know why some people are so obtuse. And at the end of the day, I told this person, and here's why they got mad. I told them, I said, "You know who you sound like? You sound like the MAGA millions. You're saying the same things that they say. They call him an ambulance chaser. They call him a race hustler. And they say that he makes everything about race. And you're saying the same thing that maggots say. You know what that means?" I said, even if you're not a raccoon, you sure sound like one. And the last thing I'd ever want to do, because somebody who doesn't know me would think that I was really one, I would never want to sound like a raccoon. So anything that I know or think that a raccoon would say or that the maggots would say, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to agree with it ever. Okay, period. That's what I'm not going to do. Okay, so I just think some of our people are just lost in the sauce and just are too foolish to exercise critical thinking skills. And they just, quite frankly, in my opinion, believe whatever they're told by the people who don't even like them. Okay, please pay attention. I find it all interesting. Now, with that being said, let's go to this Lindsay Clancy case. I'm not going to play all of this. I'm just going to play a minute or two of it because this is from yesterday when the psychologist dropped the bombshell, supposedly. Okay, and let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. That's right. Ebony said Ben Crump is just one man against the entire wanton supremacist system. Exactly, beloved. That's facts. And instead of trying to bring him down or talking down on him, they should be asking themselves, what can we do to help people that Ben Crump is helping? Can we donate to them? Can we send them gifts? Can we just show our support? How can we show our support? Anything would help rather than trying to drag the man who's doing the work to actually help them. It's ridiculous.
About a young lady that is saying to people that she's having thoughts that are intrusive and dark and that she's worried that other people are reading her mind and know about it, and you don't even know who she said it to.
After more than 4 weeks, the battle inside a Plymouth, Massachusetts courtroom is getting more and more intense. Every witness, every question, every piece of evidence contested. And the triple murder trial of Lindsay Clancy is getting ready to come to a conclusion. It's not a whodunit. Lindsay Clancy admits that she strangled her 3 young children to death, but she says she should not be held criminally responsible. What drove Lindsay to do it? She says she heard a voice commanding her, but prosecutors do not believe her.
This was psychosis with command hallucinations or suicide with
Look at those beautiful, sweet little babies. That is so sad. May they rest in peace. I feel so sorry for their father. And let me tell you something. This just reminds me of Andrea Yates. You all remember her, don't you? Andrea Yates, she murdered her 5 children. And she said, they said she claimed to have some type of psychosis, and maybe she did. But you know what I thought was interesting about her story? And her story, I really felt like the devil did make her do that. And one of the reasons is because her children, they were all named after biblical characters. Did you all know that? Yeah, all of her children had the names of people from the Bible. Luke, Jacob, Noah, and I just felt like I do believe in postpartum depression because I know somebody who had that, and they had to be sent to Charterton. That was like so many years ago, probably 2 decades ago even. But the bottom line is, I don't know if this lady's been honest or not. But what I do know is that people are believing her story. And there's a whole lot of people supporting her, which I find interesting because if she was Black, I'm sure she wouldn't get the same amount of support. Okay, that's what she wouldn't get. And one thing that I do know is that when people who don't look like me commit heinous, nefarious, depraved crimes, the first thing their people want to say is it's mental health issues. Now, sometimes maybe it is, but I don't think it is every single time. And with her situation, I don't know. I'm not sure I believe her. Now, some people say that because she jumped from the window and she's now paralyzed, that she had to have been suffering from postpartum depression or some form of psychosis. I don't know about that. Like I said, because I think about people like Andrea Yates and what she did and how I believed her, but I believed her because of my spirit. My spirit made me feel that she was telling the truth. And also, like I said, I feel like there was a demonic attack because of how she named her children, because who knows what they were going to be when they grew up. But also, Sarah Smith, or not Susan Smith, the one that killed her 2 children and blamed it on the Black man. Now, I instantly knew she was lying. When I saw her on the news, and I was really young then, but I remember knowing that she was lying. I told everybody, she's crying crocodile tears. She's fake. No Black man did that. She did it herself. And that's exactly what she did. So I think that I'm pretty good with my intuitiveness, and specifically because I'm prophetic. Now, I'm not saying that I'm always right, but in this case, I just don't know if I believe her. I haven't decided yet because I haven't paid enough attention to her story to really make an accurate assessment. That's why I want to talk about it now and hear what the psychologist has to say. So let's continue.
Altruistic filicide. Is your testimony that it's either or it's one or the other?
The evidence much more strongly, in my opinion, supported the second explanation, which was the serious suicide attempt accompanied by killing the children out of love.
Now, I'm not going to listen. Not trying to spook anybody out, but don't y'all find it interesting that right after I said that, and I was talking about the demons and the devil or whatever, because our children being from the Bible or named after people in the Bible, the number of people in the chat was 666 right after I said that. Okay, 666. Please pay attention. All right, it's the devil trying to tell us something, but let's continue.
This may be the most important contested fact. Did Lindsay Clancy really hear a voice inside of her head? And soon the jury will have to figure it out when they decide whether Lindsay Clancy is a cold-blooded killer mother or a mentally ill mom who had a psychotic break. There is so much at stake at this trial. Obviously, the future of Lindsay Clancy, where she ends up, whether it's institutionalized for some period of time or behind bars for the rest of her life. But there's also now a national debate about postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and the treatment of these illnesses for women. Everyone is watching this case. And the question for this jury, did she really hear that voice commanding her to kill her 3 children? But legally, that's actually not the question. The question is, can prosecutors prove that she didn't hear it?
No, they can't prove it. How could they prove it? They can't. They absolutely cannot. Okay, and J Love the Queen, did I read your comment, beloved? I wonder if we're ever going to hear from Wyatt. Yeah, you know what? I don't think we're going to hear from Wyatt unless he gets arrested. Okay. I don't think we're going to hear from Wyatt unless he gets arrested. Thank you for your question, beloved, and your insight into the topic and your contribution. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, that's a good question. Can they prove it? No, they absolutely can't. Now, a psychiatrist could basically, or a psychologist could say whether or not they think that she definitely suffers from psychosis, or if she has a history of mental illness, or if mental illness runs in her family, things like that, or if she was diagnosed with postpartum depression. They could say those things, but as far as knowing what she heard, nobody can tell you what you hear in your mind. Okay? Nobody can tell you that. And I'm going to tell you something too. He should say he's a damn lie queen. Aquarius Rising said, lock her arse up. Hold on. Y'all are going in. Sierra said, did the voice tell her to Google how long it would take her husband to run those errands? Did she do that? Please tell me she didn't do that. Okay, that would definitely lead me to think that she absolutely knew what she was up to.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Let's investigate.
The cost of healthcare is an emergency. That's why I'm fighting the
Ossoff wants y'all's votes. And speaking of votes, let me just tell you all something. I really have a feeling there's going to be a false flag soon. Okay, I really have a feeling there's going to be a false flag soon, and then they're going to blame it on Iran. Just be expecting it, and I'm just hoping and praying that they don't attack our power grid. Okay, because that would be absolutely, that would be egregious. Let's continue.
As we get ready for the jury to get this case and make their decision, I mean, what a tough job they have. This is not an easy one. Not at all. There is so much gray area in this case, and I'm trying to analyze it, and it's difficult to parse through factually what would constitute enough evidence to not provide a reason for her to be convicted. Like it's not black and white, right? In a straight murder case, they did it, they didn't do it. It's black and white. But trying to determine what's going on in her mind and legally what would relieve her of criminal responsibility, it's not easy. And it's not easy for prosecutors here because they must disprove it. So it's not just that the defense is going to put forth this evidence, then the prosecution has to disprove everything that they are alleging when it comes to her lack of criminal responsibility. And ultimately, it comes down to, why were they killed? Why were these 3 children killed? Were they killed because their mother wanted them dead? Or were they killed because their mother was in some psychotic state and thought either that it was in their best interest to die, that she needed to kill them in their...
Tell you something. One thing that I heard about this story is they say that she choked all of them. She strangled all 3 of them to death, and that the oldest one ran and she chased him down. Now, I'm sorry, but do you all remember that's exactly what Andrea Yates did when she killed her 5 children? The oldest one, who was 7, he ran and she chased him down. Now, she drowned her children in the bathtub. She held them under the water. But she chased her child down too. And so when and that had to be so horrible. That little child, 7 years old, watching her do that to his siblings and then knowing he was next. And the poor little thing ran for his life. And the same case with her. Okay, it's just so sad. So sad, but let's continue.
Their best interest, meaning she was doing something good when she was really doing something bad. Or she couldn't control herself or keep herself from doing it because of the psychosis that she was under. And that's not easy. One of the big issues in this entire case will be that the voice, the alleged voice that she heard commanding her. Like, if the jury believes that there's some voice commanding her to do that and she cannot resist the commands of this voice, then she's not criminally responsible. Even if they believe it's just a reasonable explanation for what happened here. That's why this issue is so important for prosecutors. So important. I mean, if the jury believes that she's hearing an auditory hallucination of a voice, it's going to be difficult for them to say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, because within the reasonable doubt lives that theory that she could not stop herself from.
Now, here's my question. Melly says, I heard she slit their throats and the youngest survived. Oh, my Lord. But here's the thing, though. I just have to ask myself, when these people say that they heard voices telling them to do nefarious things, what makes them actually listen to that voice and do it? I mean, if a voice is telling you to kill your children, you know that that's wrong, right? You know that's not something you should do, right? And if you love your children, you wouldn't do it. So my question is, because you heard a voice, what made you feel as if you had to do what the voice supposedly commanded you to do? And has anyone in the chat, please put a one in the chat, if you have ever had that sort of experience with something telling you to do something. Once in the chat, if you have ever, excuse me, had an experience with like you felt like you heard something or you felt compelled or like something was telling you to do something nefarious. Youngest Turnip says yes. Mel, you need to stop. She didn't love her children, says Flower Lotus. Jonas has puts a one. Okay. Stephanie said never. See, that's the thing. I remember when I was younger. I was probably like 17 or 18. I remember hearing something, but not even hearing it, like an audible voice, not like that, but having this thought in my head that was telling me to do something crazy to myself. And like just saying a bunch of negative things about myself. And I was like, I knew it was the devil. And I called my uncle, who's a pastor, and I told him, and he said, that's the devil. He said the same thing happened to him when he was 25. But see, the thing is, I had the presence of mind to know it was the devil, okay, trying to influence me to harm myself. But at the end of the day, I don't understand. These people, if they are hearing these voices and feeling compelled to do what the voice is telling them to do, even though they know it's nefarious, well, they must have demons. I mean, I would think. I would think that if they're actually hearing voices that are telling them to do these things and then they act upon what they're being directed to do, that clearly that's demons. That's demonic. Okay, in my opinion. Okay, and let me just tell you something. It is very easy to have demons influence you when you're going through stuff. Like if you're grieving the loss of someone, like if you're sick, like if you're suffering from depression, you know, all sorts of things, low vibrational, or if you're doing illegal substances or abusing alcohol and things like that. Okay. And when I felt like something was telling me in my spirit to do something to myself, I was going through stuff at the time. Like I was really upset because somebody in my family that was really close to had passed away, and I was suffering from depression and all of that. So, but like I said, I had the presence of mind to know that's not God telling me to do that. Okay, because that's got to be the devil. Okay, and why would I listen to the devil? So you understand what I'm saying? And so let's continue. Like, everyone, please like and share.
Listening to that auditory hallucination. So that's why the testimony of Dr. Kirk Heilbrunn is so important for prosecutors. And this is exactly one of the big issues he was talking about, which is why he does not believe that she actually heard auditory hallucinations, that perhaps she's lying about it. Let's take a listen.
Another thing I would like to know is, was she on any sort of medication? And the reason I'd like to know that is because some of these medications are absolutely demonic to me. Okay. Absolutely. Some of these pharmaceuticals are absolutely demonic, in my opinion. Witchcraft, if you will. When you think about the word pharmacy, the root word, okay, literally means sorcery. Okay. It literally means sorcery. And when you look at the pharmacy known as Rite Aid, they have like this bowl with someone churning something with a little churn thing in there, like people would do when they're making herbs to cast spells, not to heal, but to do other things. Well, to heal too, but I'm just saying. So I just really think because we hear all of these commercials, right, where they're talking about these new medicines, and then they'll say, oh, may cause suicidal thoughts. And I'm asking myself, Who in the hell wants to take some sort of medication that could possibly give them suicidal thoughts? Why would you even want to take that? And what can you put in a medicine to make it give someone those sort of thoughts? May cause suicidal thoughts or homicidal thoughts. Like, what? What are you putting in this medicine? And you couldn't leave that ingredient out? I mean, that sounds like witchcraft and sorcery to me. It's exactly what it sounds like. So that's why I would be curious to know if, in fact, she was taking any sort of medication, and if so, what was it?
For just $67, you can generate as many videos and never.
And so, there ended up being, in my mind, two possible explanations for why she did what she did. The first being the acute psychosis with command hallucinations, and the second being this was a serious suicide attempt, and she wanted the children to be with her so she wouldn't be separated from them, and so they wouldn't have to suffer after she was gone.
And after considering the evidence for acute psychosis, command hallucinations, did you then consider evidence against acute psychosis with command hallucinations?
I did, yes.
And what did you see?
One of the reasons, well, the first bullet point here is that the way she described this as happening is that she heard a voice that she'd never heard before, experienced an hallucination. And she's never experienced it since, but she only experienced it for the 18 minutes or so that it took to kill the children. And to put it mildly, that would be a very, very unusual pattern or manifestation of how this kind of thing comes about. Very unusual. I've been doing this kind of evaluation for many, many years, and I'm always very careful when someone tells me that they experienced a symptom only during the course of committing an offense. Then the next bullet was inconsistencies in her account. To me, when asked about this, she said, the voice said, "This is your last chance. You have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself." And it just kept repeating that, and only that, for about 18 minutes, or the duration of the time it took to do this.
Okay, I don't know about this. This is all sounding real sketchy. So you mean to tell me that she never experienced this before, this sort of episode, and then when she did, it lasted just long enough for her to murk her kids? I'm reading the comments. You all need to stop. Okay, now, several of you said that she was taking Seroquel. I know somebody who was taking Seroquel years ago, and here's the thing. When I look up the side effects, it doesn't say anything about psychosis. It says fertility changes, breast milk leakage, sexual dysfunction, missed or irregular monthly cycles, extreme drowsiness, weight gain, dizziness, dry mouth and constipation, high blood sugar, movement disorders. Okay, it doesn't say anything about psychosis. And like I said, I know someone who was taking that before, and they never acted crazy, but let's continue.
There were other times, though, for instance, when she was in the hospital after this happened and was talking to a psychiatric attending, when she said that the voice had said other things, for example, the children will suffer without you, or you have to take the kids with you, or things like that. So inconsistency is important because it suggests inaccuracy. Some research suggests that that one consideration is whether the voices are internal or external, whether they're coming from your own thoughts or whether they're coming from outside of your head. And Ms. Clancy perceived this voice as external, which is more consistent with genuine hallucinations. However, Command hallucinations are often, in about 88% of individuals reporting them by one count, accompanied by a related delusion. Ms. Clancy did not report any accompanied delusions. So thus far, you've got 1 point for genuine and 1 point for possible exaggerated. Then there's frequency and control. Genuine psychotic hallucinations are more often intermittent than constant. They'll come and they'll go. You'll hear it, stop hearing it. You'll hear it again, stop hearing it, and this can extend over a period of time. Ms. Clancy, in this instance, reported that the voice was constant for 18 to 20 minutes, and then it stopped. It had not been experienced before, and it has not been experienced since. And she also did not report having any control over the voice or over her actions in response to the voice. Then the next item is content. So genuine hallucinations are often familiar, use both genders, and are clear rather than vague. Ms. Clancy described this voice as clear, but it was unfamiliar and it was a single male voice. So that was sort of mixed. I'm not counting it as one direction or another. And then finally, reaction and coping. Individuals who experience hallucinations like this often try to reduce their influence in different ways. Could be praying, could be listening to music. And while those who inaccurately report the experience of such hallucinations often do not describe coping mechanisms. And Ms. Clancy didn't report any attempt to stop the voice or distract herself from it or what have you. So there were about 3 points on which her account more closely resembled exaggerated or fabricated hallucinations. One where it looked more genuine and one that was kind of mixed.
And was there further evidence against acute psychosis?
Yes. I'm going to start with the question of thoughts or hallucinations. I've already said that I found the account of hallucinations to be, as she described it, it would be very, very unusual to experience it that way. Never having, not before, not since, constantly for 18 minutes. However, if this was a thought, an unwelcome, intrusive thought, but still a thought, that's basically, this is your last chance, you have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself, then that would be consistent with thoughts that she'd been experiencing for some time. She'd been having thoughts about harming herself, that she was, it was going to be very difficult for her to do this in a way that was, that made sense. She was experiencing thoughts about hurting herself because her brain might have been damaged. She was experiencing thoughts about hurting the kids. She was experiencing all sorts of unwelcome thoughts. If that were the case on January 24th, if these were thoughts, then that would be consistent with what she'd been experiencing for months before. So that was something that made more sense to me, that rather than an auditory hallucination, it would have been an unwelcome, intrusive thought. The next bullet is her response to her husband's question, "What did you do?" And he said, his first question was, "What did you do?"
Y'all, I found the most comfortable.
And her response was, "I tried to kill myself." Now, I thought that if she had actually experienced this command hallucination, that she might have said something like, "I did what I had to do," or "I did what the voice said," or something like that. But no, she said, "I tried to kill myself." And this is consistent with my looking at this and starting from the perspective of This is a serious, highly lethal suicide attempt. And that's the way to understand it.
If you could describe for us the evidence that you saw for suicide combined with altruistic filicide.
Yeah. Altruistic filicide is a term that's used that means killing your kids out of love, not because you're trying to be cruel or for material gain or because you want them out of your lives or any of that, but killing them out of love so that you could basically, they wouldn't have to suffer, so you could prevent their suffering. And what she did, I thought, was begin with what I said a minute ago was a highly lethal and very serious suicide attempt.
And that was preceded
It
by
was preceded by months of thoughts and impulses about you should harm yourself, you should kill yourself, your brain is damaged, that sort of thing. And that, I think, is the beginning of the way to understand what happened that day. The second point is that, as I've said before, she didn't like to leave her children. Whether that was for date night or school or going back to work or anything, she did not like to leave her children. And if she had taken her own life, then her children would have been without her, and she thought that they would suffer. And she'd been having these thoughts both about herself and about her children over a several-month period. And the other thing that I will say is that she was in pain. She was suffering. She was doing a little bit better than she had been before she went into McLean, but she was still in pain. She was suffering. I think she was even desperate. And that is something that is often characterized as people who try to take their own life. They're in pain, they're suffering, and they're trying to put a stop to it. And I think when she decided at some point that she was going to put a stop to it, then she had to answer the question of what to do about the kids. And she didn't want to leave them, and she was convinced that they would suffer without.
Okay, so that just sounds crazy to me because, for one, they have a father, and there's other people in the family who could have kept the children. So I don't understand why she thought the kids would suffer. But if you all remember, there was a Black woman who was 29 years old. This was in 2022. Her name is Shanthia Gardner. Okay, she stabbed all 4 of her children, ranging from ages 6 months to 4 years old. Now, her lawyers said that she absolutely had mental health issues. Let's go to her mugshot. Clearly crazy. Look at her. Sitting there smiling on her mugshot after you killed 4 kids. Yeah, I think she absolutely had mental health issues. But what's interesting for me is when I was reading the comments, they didn't have empathy for her. The people who don't look like me, what is she smiling about? Makes me sick. Somebody posted a picture of an electric chair. Okay. A Black person says she's mentally disturbed. Give her the treatment she needs while incarcerated. Those poor babies. Then someone who doesn't look like us said 4 hot center cots until she dies at taxpayer expense. Someone else says this is absolutely ridiculous. She killed 4 babies. Another reason for bringing back an automatic death penalty. This Black man says that's too good for her. And then another man who's YT says mentally ill, evil people are the most dangerous ones. They will kill you with no conscience or guilt. It's sad to know there are many innocent, defenseless children living in their care. Yeah, that is sad to know. Somebody says, why the hell she's smiling? Okay. Now, like I said, when I read that lady's story, I do think that she absolutely had mental health issues. Andrea Gates, I believe that she had demons. Okay, so anyway, that's just my take on it. Now let's go to one more report on this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And then we're going to move on to the last topic of discussion for this broadcast. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now they're asking the forensic psychologist how much money he has made testifying as an expert witness for the state. Now, I don't know why they're asking him this, except for the fact that maybe they're trying to imply that he's just saying whatever they want to hear. Who knows?
How much money did you make on this case, since they want to ask my doctor? How much money did you make on this case?
That depends when I'm finished, but I mentioned earlier that I had spent 180 hours before coming to
How
Plymouth.
much money did you make on the case, Doctor? Simple.
Well, it's not that simple, but I'm being paid at $300 an hour.
Okay, so how much money did you make on the case?
Well, $300 an hour times 180.
What's your last billing?
Hold on. I would have straight up told him none of your damn business. Okay, why do you have to tell him how much money you got paid? What does that even have to do with the case? I would not answer that. I just never would. I would say it's none of your business. Okay? Mm-hmm. What does this have to do with my diagnosis that I've given? That's what I would be saying. I'm not telling you shites.
I've been billing monthly, sir.
Okay, you must know what the total billing is up to this point, don't you?
I actually have not added it up.
How about you just give us your best estimate, Doctor?
Well, let's see. Probably up to this point, it's been about $54,000.
$54,000. And it will be more, right? When we get finished with you today, right? It'll be more.
Hold the hell up. $54,000 just to sit up here and testify, honey. I need to become an expert witness. Okay, that's all you gotta do. $54,000. It's a whole lot of money just for that little short time you got to be up there, if you ask me. What do y'all have to say about it? Delano said, damn, I'm in the wrong business. Okay, what you said. Sierra said, yes, I just did the math. Cream and Sherry said, damn. I know that's right, honey. Where is our cut at? Okay, please make it all make sense. So anyway, the next thing I want to talk about, beloveds, is I want to talk about young Pharaoh. Okay, young Pharaoh. Now, someone posted a video of him today, or not, I think yesterday, but I saw it today. But anyway, they posted a video of what he said before he started acting crazy. Now, once in the chat, if you all ever used to listen to or follow young Pharaoh, once in the chat, if you ever used to listen to or follow young Pharaoh. Summer Lawrence said they're asking because he may be swayed by the money he's getting. Yes, that's what they're implying. Absolutely. That he's just saying what they want to hear. The people who hired him, that is. Absolutely. I do believe that. 27 Didi said cheetah nails and everything. Honey, this is all sad. Listen, I used to listen to young Pharaoh back in the day, and I remember thinking that this young man has one of the most brilliant minds, okay, because he had the ability, I mean, it was just so uncanny to me, the ability that he had to retain such information, like stuff that you read in a book with all these intricate details and, you know, just all of these, how do I want to put it? Medical terminology in some cases, just all of this powerful information that he used to have and speak about, and you know, he would do seminars and things on. It was amazing to me how he could recall all of these things, retain this information without having to look at notes or anything. I thought that was absolutely brilliant because everybody can't do that. And so then all of a sudden, when he started acting crazy, I said, somebody must have put something in his drink or something. Okay, somebody had to do something to make him go crazy. Is it MK Ultra? I don't know. But so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you. Okay, here we go. And I like this video that the guy posted because he shows how he was before and then after. And also he shows what he said. And I'll tell you this. There are some things that you can say and do that will absolutely have the government looking at you, okay, and trying to do things to you. Now, that's just my opinion. I can't substantiate it, but I absolutely believe it. I remember when I was younger, I used to go and speak at this place called All Eyes on Egypt, and another place I used to go and speak at. And I remember this elder told me one time, he followed me out, walked me outside, and he was like, you know, some of the stuff that you speak about, if the government was to hear about this stuff, and this is before we had social media and all that, but he was like, if the government was to hear about the stuff, some of the stuff you're saying, he said they would probably try to have you assassinated. And I absolutely knew that. Okay. I absolutely knew it. Now, with that all being said, and here's the thing, I further know it because some of that stuff I was saying, much of it, in fact, I got from William Cooper. And where is he now? Yeah, they had him assassinated. Okay. They had him assassinated. He's now dead. Okay. And I absolutely love William Cooper till this day because that is probably the first person who woke me up from the slumber that I was in to showing that this world is a matrix. Okay, that they lie about so much. I mean, almost everything they've taught us is literally a lie. And you only realize these things when you wake up. Okay, but once you're woke, you can't go back to sleep. Okay, so anyway, um, one box says to show support for your channel, Superwoman. They ain't getting too much. Everything else will go to Cash App. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Okay, I thank you for your kind words. And also, I really appreciate you, okay, because you already know that ScrewTube takes about 40%. All right, and so thank you for that. Now, let's continue.
Anything gonna happen to me, period. But I'm gonna get my disclaimer. I don't eat meat, I'm healthy. I don't be reckless driving or none of that. So I don't so we don't wanna see me poisoned, y'all. We don't wanna see me having no drug overdoses. We don't wanna see me in no magical accidents. If anything happened to me, they did it. You know exactly who did it. Bitch, I don't even leave my motherfucking house.
Now, let me ask you all something. Does anyone remember when young Pharaoh first started acting crazy? Does anyone remember what happened to him right before he started acting crazy? Put a 1 in the chat. If you remember specifically what happened to young Pharaoh before he started acting crazy. If you don't remember, I'm going to tell you what I remember. I remember that he was invited to speak at CPAC. And then he got uninvited to speak there because he was accused of saying things that were deemed as anti-Semitic, just like Kanye. I remember when Kanye started acting crazy. Remember when Kanye started acting crazy? Because I always thought Kanye was a genius. And then all of a sudden, he started saying a whole bunch of crazy stuff after people accused him of being anti-Semitic. Please pay attention. Okay? Please pay attention.
Unless I gotta go to the store. Period. So I don't be out here, I don't be clubbing, I don't do none of that shit. So don't let these motherfuckers lie. And I'm just throwing that out. Yup, let me get that in there too, Ty. Now I'm not suicidal. None of that. Shit. I don't even eat meat. So don't let them
Alright, in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to survive an MK Ultra attack. A lot of y'all motherfuckers is not ready for this info, but it's okay, because I'm gonna give it to you anyway. For one, they are most likely targeting you because you have the potential to wake people up, or you have the potential to unlock biological ascension. Biological ascension is a brand new concept. You can call it a new age concept because we are literally in a new age. We are now allowed to unlock a 5th dimensional frequency within our own cells, which translates to a crystalline avatar that does not age or get sick. If the matrix or the grid that is right over us, if they can see with their technology that you have the potential to do either of these two things, you will be targeted for an MK Ultra attack. An MK Ultra attack is very, very simple. It is invisible electromagnetic waves sent to your body and your cells, meant to shake and disrupt your normal or slow process of your own biological ascension. They try to speed it up when you're not ready. That means they know how to target the trauma that's inside of you from whatever you experienced in this life and also your past lives. They know how to wake it up all at once, so you go through an internal panic so scary that you want to off yourself. You could go to a doctor or go to any type of physician that'll x-ray you, and they'll be like, what the fuck, you tripping, there's nothing going on.
That looks like he has demons. Look at him. Look at the look in his eyes. It just looks so demonic. That maniacal, sinister smile. Okay, the fingernails. It just all reeks of satanic stuff. Okay, absolutely someone did something to him. That's not even a doubt in my mind. And it's really sad.
But internally, you feel like there is a fire burning faster and faster. You have to put it out. They send what's called death pictures through your body, which is basically like replaying movies of traumatic things that have happened in your life or past lives, and they make it play over and over and over again. What they want you to do, what the goal of an MK Ultra attack is, to make you off yourself, so you will no longer be a threat to the system that they're trying to maintain in the third dimension. But they also want you to go to your head. That's the whole goal. They know that you're going to run to your head and try to analyze what's going on and panic and freak out. But the key is to literally sit in your body, ignore your thoughts, ignore your head, and allow the sensations to flow through you, because what they're doing is actually blessing you by helping you kickstart your ascension.
Because we live in a world where the more intelligent you are, the bigger the time.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there because he started playing the music and stuff or whatever. So really sad. I hate to see stuff like that. But hold on, let me just let you all see this, because I know you all remember this interview. Now I'm not going to show this on the screen because of copyright, but I will play this audio. But I want you all to remember what Prince said. They got Prince and Michael Jackson too, as far as I'm concerned.
Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. What he said, this phenomena of chemtrails. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. And so that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever.
The Queen just turned 90. It was a big celebration. And coincidentally, it was the same day that Prince passed away.
And it was the same day she was here in Washington, D.C. Front page of the Washington Post. Got her family dressed in purple. The same day that they killed Prince.
Now there's such a thing as persistent contrails. One, air's got to be cold. And secondly, the air has to be extremely humid so that the moisture doesn't evaporate into the air, and so it lingers. Now, chemtrails are totally different because these occur in warm and dry air.
Okay, so I find this all very interesting. Said they're loaded with chemicals, geoengineering, if you will. Okay, geoengineering. Now, with that all being said, we're about to conclude this broadcast. And I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Melody said, wow, this is so sad. It really is. It's very sad to see him like that. To see anyone like that, okay? Sierra said Prince was on it. Absolutely. Truth Brown said, yeah, they were mad at Prince. They were mad at him and Michael Jackson. Okay, so anyway, Daughter of Zion said, love Dick Gregory. Yeah, Dick Gregory was very woke. Okay, years before woke was even a thing. That's right, Greta Lee said, bioengineering the food. Honey, if you not have been listening to Bill Gates and some of the stuff he's been saying as of late, it is just all scary and definitely nefarious, okay? Absolutely. So anyway, with that all been said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Please like, share, subscribe. Century Prophetic Bachelor said exactly, Queen. Hot topics. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will see you all in the morning, bright and early with your morning wake-up call. So until then, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Ooh, I gotta talk to you right now. Have you ever asked yourself why you hate a skin tone? Nobody has to be here, not nobody. But I'll be black in every lifetime. Yes, you can have pride in you too. But when I do it, it's because nobody cares about my life. You act like I'm a mud. And we all know I'm the beginning of the whole shit. But you hate me, boy. Tell you people ain't shit. Ooh, yeah, it hurts sometimes, but this got me tough. So I say, damn you and your whole crew. I'm black, and that's my truth. Black in every life. Same spirit, same skin. Every time I come back round, you look at me like I'm the problem, like my existence is too loud. I didn't choose the tone, but I carry it with pride. Why you carry that hate like it's something you hide? You can love yourself, I ain't mad at that. But the second I stand tall, you act like it's an attack. Call me names, call me less, act like I don't belong. But history don't lie, and the bloodline is strong. Boy, tell you people ain't shit. Ooh, yeah, it hurts sometimes, but this got me tough. So I say, damn you and your whole crew. I'm black, and that's my truth. Black in every life. Have you ever asked yourself why the hate still lives? Nobody asked for this life, but I still claim mine. Black in every lifetime, that's the only truth I gotta live. Damn you and your whole crew. I'm black, and that's my truth.